some people that did that as well.
Okay, we are recording. We're live. We have Jason who's going to walk us through DPAs and their offerings. So take it away.
Yeah, I'll send you all some information following the call, or I can send it, and Eric or Lisa can kind of send it around, or I can share screen if that's what you want. But it's really more of just kind of a high level discussion, and then figure out what you guys need, and we can get more specific individually. I think the down payment assistance product has been really good for us as a door opener. We don't do exclusively down payment assistance program stuff, which would be an odd niche to have. But you know, it's worth pointing out that we're really good at it, and we weren't very good at it probably when Lisa did her first loan with us because we were all kind of learning how to do it at that point. And it was a new product, and realtors weren't super pumped about doing something with the down payment assistance, and it was really limited to manufactured homes, places in Phelan and weird ass place. Like it wasn't like you weren't going to get you weren't going to get a down payment assistance loan approved anywhere. Now we're doing them everywhere. I'm licensed in Hawaii. I do a bunch there. We do a bunch in Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino. It's been very effective there because where properties sit a little bit longer, obviously, sellers are a little bit more open to it. So just to get some of the other stuff out of the way, we still do all your DSCRs, your government stuff. We're really good at VA, and our jumbo product, our jumbo prime product, which is follows an AUS, is priced really, really well right now. I know you guys have banking options as well, so that they may not be a fit for you, but if you have something that's kind of outside the box, shoot me an email, call me, text, whatever it is, and I will get back to you. But we have a pretty complete product offering. I've been with Orion for 9 years. I've been in wholesale for most of the last 25. I did some retail, kind of understand your side of it enough. Definitely am not as good as any of you are at it, but at least I can have the discussion if it comes down to it. And, I know how pain in the ass a realtor can be, especially on these sort of loans, right? So,
We have a couple realtors on the line. So, and
well, you're a
to
pain in
that
the
point,
ass.
well, but honestly, to that point, I want to bring up, part of some of the realtors' concerns about DPAs. It's always been the concern for a lot of them is they feel like they take longer to close than a traditional loan. And Lisa can attest because she's both Lisa. So we have Lisa, our realtor, and then Lisa, my wife. They probably can. Well, I'm not sure about Lisa realtor, but my Lisa can attest to closing these just as fast as any other loan, and not never having that hiccup. But a lot of realtors, if they don't know any better, you know, feel like if they accept an offer on a DPA product that it's going to run over the close of escrow dates, and we close them just as fast. Would you agree with that, Lisa?
Yeah, they're the exact same. I don't think they take any longer.
Yeah, it's the fact that some people come in off the boat trying to do something they've never done before, and they screw it up and don't know what they're doing and misquote it, misprice it, yada yada. It get get uh, convoluted or whatever, and so the realtor, working with someone like that who's not experienced, gets a bad taste in their mouth for a scenario like that. But we've got these dialed in. Lisa's been doing these for years, and she knows them inside and out. So
I think the issue is maybe with our older realtors that maybe started out with Calhafa and they were a pain in the butt. And just, a lot of times people just didn't know how to do them. And so I think that's where the timing comes in.
yeah.
I'm not sure, and Lisa, realtor Lisa can attest to this. I'm a realtor as well. What I don't know is, do we have to disclose what we're doing
Nina,
a DP?
can you mute yourself, Nina? We're getting some feedback from you.
I don't know that we technically have to disclose that we're doing a DPA loan as a realtor. We can just, it's an FHA loan, so we're doing an FHA loan.
I don't disclose anymore. I
Yeah,
used to back in the day, but not
but
anymore.
sellers they're leery of it, right? And so even selling agents, they're like, we don't want to deal with the DPA loan. So if as realtors we just say it's a standard FHA loan, we don't even have to go into the detail or scare them that we're going to do a DPA. The reality is we need seller credit regardless. to help cover the closing costs because there's a cost to doing these loans. So I think the bad rap was from back in the day. I have not had any issues time wise on any of these. So
Lisa,
yes.
quick question. You're saying you can do them the same amount of time, so you would have no problem on a 30-day escrow to rock that DPA?
Nope. As long as the property checks out good and you have clients that are going to send their documents in a timely manner, we will close them in 30 days.
All right, cool. I love it.
Would you agree with that, Jason?
Wow.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. I was going to point out our average turn time on DPAs is about 22, 23 days, right? Which is standard with a purchase for us. I think that traditionally there was a concern with realtors and like the borrowers. There is something about your borrower that you need to be aware of on down payment assistance products is they're not as sophisticated as some of your other borrowers, right? So sometimes that delay comes from self-inflicted gunshot wounds to the head as far as how well they can get their stuff together. That is not something that you or I can control, but if you coach them up front and get them prepared that they need to be on the ball, that I don't see any reason for these to take any longer. That I will tell you, just in full transparency, they take 3 hours longer than a regular loan. The disclosures are sent by us. You don't send the disclosures on DPAs. So usually if you get it in line, they go out the same day, unless it's after like 2 or 3, and then it might go out the next morning. And then I would say from a doc drawing perspective, sometime I would say if our regular standard California turn time would be if you get clear to close by say 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we could get docs out. I would say on down payment assistance, it's probably closer to noon. But those are things that if you have 30 days to prep for, I'm not too worried that we can't put that together, right? So we close these every day without any hiccup to the borrower. They don't know any different. Realtors don't know any different. But I think what Lisa brought up is important. Many of them require not only a different way to sell it up front, but you need closing costs being paid on these. It's not 100% mandatory, but when you're talking about you wanting to make money, the borrower not having any money, and there only being so much credit in these, it ultimately becomes required. So why don't I give you just kind of some overview stuff that you can think about, and if we have any questions, we can jump into it. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay. So first off, we have essentially 3 DPAs that we offer. There's an FHA boost. Boost doesn't mean anything to you. It is a 15-year term second. The second is typically 2% higher than the first interest rate. So if you choose 7, your second's 9. That goes all the way down to a 580 credit score, even for manufactured, which typically we require a 640 on manufactured in any other way, although that seems to be coming down. There's been exceptions on that. The boost DPAs are, the upside of it is, we securitize these. So even if there is a guideline that maybe is a nice to have, not a need to have, we can make exceptions to those. Typically that would happen where maybe, you have a husband and wife and the husband's got a 590 credit score and the wife has a 720 credit score. The wife makes all the money. Well, then, we might not have the reserve requirements because we're dragging them down for a credit score that doesn't necessarily affect it, or, things that don't necessarily fit the box perfectly. There's always repayable and non-repayable options on these. Everyone gets kind of excited. The non-repayable option sounds sexy. I'm not going to ever have to make this payment. Well, you're not going to have to pay it back, but you're going to have to pay an interest rate that's 1.5% higher for 3 years on a 3.5% second, or 10 years on a 5% second. And we do have seconds that cover closing costs that go to a 1.5. I'll tell you where the savvy people are really doing these is they're finding a higher rate with more credit and a repayable second, which is generally not a very large payment. And they're getting these people out of these as quick as possible, right? They're getting in with as little money as possible by getting more credit for the rate chosen, and they're getting out as quickly as possible. And that could be as little as 6 months. So let me tell you the way it works. Our Boost and Aurora DPAs, and they're both a first-second combo. Aurora, you probably will never use. I only bring it up in case you do loans in the state of Washington, because for some reason that has strange guidelines that I don't understand that only allow certain DPAs. But we also have an Elevate grant product, which is completely free money. It's up to 3.5% on FHA, up to 3% with a Home Ready First on conventional. So you can do conventional products. And after 6 payments, it goes away. So, what's the catch on these? You have to be a first-time home buyer, or you have to qualify as one of a many different ways, like people who do good in the world, cops, firefighters, teachers, first responders, volunteers, that sort of thing. You can exceed the AMI limits with those. Otherwise, you have to be 100 under 160 on the AMI. That's just on the grant program. Now, that's becoming big for us. We're doing more of them on FHA because people realize, hey, in 6 months, I can do a streamline, or 210 days and 6 payments, I can do a streamline. Whereas, the first, second combos, you really have to be at 12 months before you can do anything on a refi. That's an FHA requirement to not, and you can't really streamline those because there's a second. And so the only way to refi those in less than 12 months is if you have documented improvements and you lower the LTV, which, is possible for sure, but I don't see a ton of those. Where we see a lot of them is, 12 months in a day, stay close to these people, you have a refi coming. The rates typically on these, probably somewhere in the, depending on how much credit you're trying to obtain, somewhere in the high 6s to the low 7s on the first, second being 2% higher than that. It's debt ratios go all the way up to 46.99, 56.99 with the AUS approval. We have a ton of marketing material available if you don't have access to our Star Portal. There's a bunch of pictures of people shaking hands and handing over keys and all that good stuff that look generic but look well done, and you can customize those with your pictures, colors, all that good stuff. There's 900 of those in there in English and Spanish. I would say use it if you're going to try to market this. And I think that the most important thing with down payment assistance, I know I haven't got into the weeds on any of it, but you could become an expert immediately. You could have a complete advantage in whatever market you're in immediately, because so few people take the time to even do this and sit down and listen to a little bit about it and learn a little bit about it. There's a lot more borrowers out there that don't have a down payment than there are that do, right? So we just have to kind of find them and find the right place for them. We do an awful lot of these, and I guess I'll pause now because I've talked for a while, and if there's something I can do to make your job easier, let's have it.
I know there was one question about the credit score. I think, Christian, if you can elaborate on that. I believe 580 as long as you have an AUS, right?
You can do 580 credit scores, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a quick question to Lisa.
Go for it, Nina. You're muted though, babe.
Okay, so on the grant program, I
Mhm.
know you said we can go up to 120 AMI. Is that the county website we go to? And I think in San Bernardino County, it's like 96 or 98,000 per
Yeah,
family.
it's up to 160, and we follow the same as like Home Ready or Home Possible. So yeah,
Okay.
it's I'm sure it's the same website that you're going to.
For you
Okay,
guys that
thank
don't know
you.
what AMI is, it's your average median income. So we got a lot of new people on board that are
Okay,
reading the lingo. So we kind of have to dumb it down a little bit just to
for
get
sure.
everybody to understand some of the abbreviations and stuff that we use. When he was saying that, basically what Jason's saying in terms of the exceptions is because they don't sell their paper to Fannie Freddie, they service the loan themselves. They can make up their own exceptions on deals. It's not in stone hard like it would be on a Fannie Freddie deal where we have to meet, all the guidelines, dot all the I's, cross all the T's. They can get around some guidelines because they service their own paper and they don't sell it off. So just for those that didn't understand what that meant. And if we can get an example, like if there's a visual example, I know a lot of people are very visual. If there's anything you can like do a scenario and break down something visually, share a screen and show us, what it looks like. Because even
Yeah,
a lot of these people don't probably understand, or some don't understand what it means to have a first and and then the second, and then the zip type product that you use to cover the fees because there's no rebate pricing. You have to break that down for them so they can understand that, because this is new for a lot of people. They don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share
And then we'll
screen. Hold on.
also, Jason, all the loan officers that are on after, I'd like to get them set up on the STAR portal so they can look at all the marketing material. There's a quick pricer in there that you guys can price, and it's really easy. It'll show you your rebate, it'll show you your cost. And then what's the max comp that they can get? 2.25?
Let me double check that.
Just so they know
So,
too.
yeah, I don't think there's anything that will cause issues for you for what your comp is. I
Yeah.
have people that have up to 275.
Okay.
Let me just confirm. There might be a max comp. I don't ever seem to run into that.
Yeah, we usually don't. So you have to charge an origination though.
So no cap on origination as long as it adheres to the QM points and fees test. So
Yeah.
as long as you pass QM, you're fine. I think that you bring up a good example on the down payment assistance products have overlays for sure, right? So as long as something fits, whatever your FHA-DU says, we will allow. We have other overlays, and typically they surround reserves, right? Which is ironic because these people don't have any money, right? So we require, on credit scores, below 620, we require the borrower to have some sort of reserves, and some of it can be a gift, right? Because most of the time you would grow up knowing that reserves can't be a gift. Well, because this is one of our guidelines, we do allow it. Because really we're just looking for a scenario that when this person goes from no skin in the game into a home, that they have some ability not only to repay, but if things go poorly, they've got some reserves. Trying to think of what other, scrolling through, and I'll send this and you can distribute it, or I can send it to everyone individually, however you prefer. We have a DPA at a glance matrix that kind of gives you, a quick look at what works. If you have above a 600 credit score, your debt ratios on these things can go as high as 46.99, 56.99 on a FHA. And then, as you get lower, we'll do a manual underwrite. But as a manual underwrite, your debt ratios are going to be closer to 40/50 or even 31/43, depending on, where they fit, right? How many months they have, what their credit score is. But when you're looking at somebody who has, I think a perfect borrower for this is probably somebody, say, north of 650, 660 on a credit score, because it's really hard to get an approve eligible with a credit score much below 640, right? So while it says 580 is the minimum, you're going to have to go manual. And if you go manual, you have to be at a 40/50 type debt ratio, which is possible for sure. But, just keep in mind, that credit score number 640, 660 is really where I see those come back and approve eligible all the time. And then that just opens up everything for you.
And I'll help you guys structure these initially when they come through, because they're a little trickier on the structuring side, just because we have to structure the way we structure the first and the subordinate. But so don't worry about that. Ashley and I will help you guys with those.
And I need to get caught up on emails. So do we have I've been trying to write notes like crazy, but I'm going to assume that we have guidelines and everything for this, correct?
Yeah. And Jason can send you guys or me. I prefer that they get on the mailing list so they get your stuff every day, because I've just been sending out everything that comes through. But yes, I have DPA at a glance. You'll have all the guides on their website once you get access to the STAR portal. They're really easy to read. The DPA at a glance is really nice because you can kind of look at what your scenario is and just kind of pick like, okay, well, this one's not going to work because I don't have, it's going to have to go, boost or whatever. Nina's done, I think 3 of these, Nina, we've closed with her. And so,
Yep.
And they've gone off without a hitch. So, this is definitely my favorite DPA. I'll pick this one over CalHAFA any day. Because don't forget, CalHAFA is restricted to a 45 back end. I would say they work sort of the same, but if we need that higher back end and then the support with Jason, we definitely want to go this route first before we go CalHAFA typically. So
yeah, and I know he said too about the 640 FICO score, but we actually closed one at 600. with Jason, and it went, we had a little bit of hiccups because of the borrower side, but we were still able to close it with him.
I
Yeah,
closed
just
one
remember.
yesterday with a 581 credit score, and I
That's
was so
unbelievable.
terrified the entire time that something was going to go wrong, like the DU wouldn't come back, but it proved eligible at a 581, and I closed it
Congratulations,
yesterday.
Jimbo.
Yeah,
I
it
thought your
was
scores
tight.
were better than that, Jimbo. Good job.
Yeah, and if you have a 580 and they got some reserves and they got something good, you're probably going to get an eligible. Clean on their credit and they just maybe don't have enough, or they have, sometimes you can get them, but it's
And
doable with them.
yeah, and let me just tell you, just for reference point, I know I appreciate the time, and I'll get you guys all set up, but a 6.99 rate today has about 1.4, 1.35 in credit, right? So, if you're looking at, that's like essentially a 101.5 type loan in itself, right? Because you're getting some of it back. If we were going to do a 5% second, it's about 3/8 in credit. So, that's a 101.875 type loan right there. So, you can get closing cost credit if they can afford to pay higher on the rate. I would say, look, a 7.5's got 2.6 in credit. You can get up there to where your fees are covered by it. And that's really, there's no point in you doing a free loan, right?
Yeah.
So let's get you up to the point where you have enough credit. And that's where borrowers just have to be educated that this is a 1 year loan. And, the difference between a 6.5 rate and a 7.5 rate, which sounds awful, is $2,000 for the course of the year. But when you look at it and how many points it is on the loan I did on this one I just ran, which was about 400 grand, it's like $13,000 difference in bottom line dollars. So, they make the $300 payment for a year or $250 payment for a year, but they get $13,000 more in credit.
Yeah.
Well, they win bottom line.
Well,
They just can't stay in that loan for 30 years.
we win as well because when we go to rate and term refinance them down the road, you're going to have a much easier time refinancing them from a 7.5
Yeah.
to
Getting a borrower
5
benefit. Yeah.
versus a 6.5 and a 5. Like the bang is going to be much greater to them in terms of the savings difference, start them off at a higher rate. And I tell everybody in these scenarios, this is a stepping stone. This is a Band-Aid. It's going to get us, we're starting here, but our end goal is to go here. And so it's temporary. It's just.
And the one thing I tell everybody is these are not money makers, but relationship builders. So you're not going to make as much money on these as you would on a traditional FHA loan, but you're building relationships with your realtor partners, and that's the most important. So you have to remember that relationships are more important than making the money. So on these, if you have a realtor that's got a client and they need a DPA, take the less money and make that great relationship. That's what you want.
Okay, when you
Yeah, I
say
think that's
money, like what's
super
the average
important.
on these loans? What would you say? Like let's say I normally make two. What would be a normal on a DPA?
You can still technically make, I think we're at max, I think 2.25.
Okay.
So you're going to have, if that's the max that you can make, 2.25. And then on broker deals, we split 50-50.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
you
the
don't
other
need
thing
to make
too,
less on these. I mean,
what's that?
you don't have to make less on these. You just have to be able to sell the higher rate and explain to them that this is a relationship that is a two loan relationship. And if you get into the streamline the grants, 6 months from now, you're giving them an incredibly affordable, refinance because everybody's fees are less on the streamline. And,
Yeah.
you could slam this thing through 210 days from now and knock 2% off their interest rate.
Yeah.
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 There's another deal.
The other thing I wanted to tell you guys too, sorry. When you guys go price, if you're going to price and not do a DPA and you want to do a regular FHA loan or a non-QM, anything that he offers, it's still brokered. So just remember that, but his pricing may come in better than our in-house lenders. You just split 50-50. So they do everything. I happen to use most of the DPAs here, but I just wanted to let you know that they do everything. So just, give some pricing a chance and see what they offer. And that way you guys can compare.
Yeah. And also for the exceptions, like if it's a manual underwrite, it's got to go to Jason. We can't do a manual. So, right?
Yeah, I think that when you have the banking relationships that you guys do, and I'm aware of most of them, right? You have a lot of options. I think where we fit into play is some of the stuff that doesn't necessarily fit the box, and people don't want to take chances on, and maybe gets a little bit on the uglier side, right? So whether that's DSCR or really high loan amounts, obviously as an AE, I'm sitting here saying send me all the really high loan amounts. That's a shock, right? But that's what we get. We get a lot of people that bank and have I'll get a $2.7 million loan from them because, they're like, look, I like that end of the game, but that cost me a lot of money from a hedge perspective, or that cost me a lot of money to warehouse it, or that cost me, whatever. So, I mean, keep us in mind, at least at the very least, we give you another look. One thing I want to make sure you guys know, we have a scenarios underwriting team that I think is amazing. They're a little overworked right now, but for example, if you needed income calculated or bank statements calculated, or you need to submit a TBD loan to have it looked at, we're all for that. Is it's a give and take. We don't want to use our concierge underwriting team to do all your work and never get any loans. But I think as long as we're getting some loans and we're working through that process with you and helping you make, we don't want to take loans that aren't going to fund, right? So if we can do a little work up front, save each other a lot of time and heartache in the long run, by all means take advantage of it. If you have a weird thing on an appraisal you want looked at, whatever, take advantage of it. We're just another resource for you that we want to really try to increase your pull through. Our best customers of ours are, they send us 30 loans and 27 of them fund, and that might be in a year or 10 years, but that's really what we try to obtain.
Question Christian has. He wanted to know how much reserves are needed for the 580 score.
Let me take a look at that.
And Elijah, you and I will go over your stuff and see if we can make that work. Because you don't have to be a first-time home buyer on all their DPA products.
Most you don't.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And so just so you guys know, what constitutes a first-time home buyer is a person who has not owned a property in the last 2+ years.
Owned or had any ownership interest. So even if you're on title with somebody, that would be the ownership interest part.
So you could have owned a property in the past, just as long as you haven't had ownership interest in the last 2 years.
3.
So on a 580 credit score, there might not be a reserve requirement if you get approved eligible. So where it comes down to it is the debt ratio limit on that is 45%. So if you don't get an approved eligible, and you go manual, you're going to need 3 months reserves.
Perfect. Anyone else have any more questions?
I have a quick one. Jason, you said something, if we follow this, we'll be an expert. And I do want to get better versed in this product big time. So how do I become an expert?
So we offer, and it's tough in this situation. I can get as detailed as you want to, but a lot of this is just reading, right? So I trust that everybody got here because they passed the 4th grade, or 2nd grade, whatever.
Barely.
I know some of us skip school more than others. Okay,
Eric was surfing.
We do offer biweekly trainings on Wednesdays where we get really in depth. We're not just giving a 30,000-foot flyover. I think that kind of taking a moment, just start with the DPA at a glance, and then as you think of specific questions, give me a call and let's spend 5 or 6 minutes talking about it. I think that's going to be helpful to you. I think that Lisa has become an expert because she's just lived it, right? She's had to go through the process a few times, and it's difficult to recreate every possible option that could happen in any loan. I mean, any of us who've been doing this for a length of time know that we're going to run into something the next day or two that we've never heard of before, right? So, DPAs are no different. I would view it the same way as I view FHA or VA or anything else, which is you're going to know the majority of the stuff up front. But when you can start speaking to kind of some of the niche and some of the, maybe things to look out for, you're going to become an expert really quick. And most of that just comes down to kind of how you sell the borrower. So I think as you have scenarios, let's spend a little bit of time and look at a two-step game plan for them. This should never be somebody's, terminal loan. They should really be looking at what their alternative options are almost the day you do this. And then you got to stay close to them because, people who are, calling and checking in and, bringing them tacos on Tuesday when the first night they, on their housewarming party or something. I mean, I know a guy who sets up a taco cart at every one of his first time home buyers' house when they have their housewarming party, and he crushes referrals.
No kidding.
It's because all these first time home buyers, it costs them $500, and all these first time home buyers, who do they hang out with? Other first time home buyers, right? So they get a bunch of people. He doesn't like stand there with his cards and act like a douche. He just, he just has a conversation with people, and he is crushing the referrals with just doing a taco cart, which I don't think is super expensive from last time I ordered one, but maybe they've gone up. Everything else has. But I would say keep these people super close and build that relationship. And as Lisa mentioned, to talk to, the realtors need to know that, you got somebody in a house with no money. That's not that easy to do. Right. So let's use that as a relationship build. And if you continue to do that, this is such a great tool for it. Like I'm doing so many refis for this office that kind of got on board early. And now every month they got a refi from sometime last year where somebody did a DPA.
So
And the grant program is going to speed that up.
When you were talking about being an expert, what you were saying is this STAR program or wherever you keep all that information, but just start with DPA at a glance, start there. And when we have a scenario, I can get back to Lisa and go from there.
Yeah. And if I don't care, Lisa, do you guys want to send me a list of people or you want to,
I can do that.
Write it down, whatever. And I'll get everybody kind of some information. It is important to get logins because then you can start pricing stuff kind of, it's helpful if you use, there's a save scenarios tab, which in our portal where if you want to, what I tell people to do who do a lot of these is, just name a scenario 660 credit score DPA, right? And then when you go back in, you can reprice it with one button. You don't have to start putting in a bunch of stuff, have a bunch of these in there. And then really kind of seeing where the sweet spot lies, because sometimes the grant programs end up pricing a little bit better. And you look at it and go, that's where I really want to put somebody because it goes away in 6 months. I can refi them in 6 months. But, on the other one, the Boost product has more available dollars to them because the way it prices, you could literally get up to 2 or 3 points in credit plus the closing costs paid. I mean, it's, you can make whatever you want and they can leave, but they have to know that the rate's going to be higher, right? So,
can you
and if you can sell it,
example of that, Jason, can you show us do a screen share and do a scenario with one product
Sure.
and the other? Just they can get a visual real quick.
Let's see, how do I share my screen here?
And you guys can email Jason any scenarios too. I do that all the time. So if you have a question or anything like that, you guys are more than welcome to chat with him as well. You can CC me on him if you want, just so I'm aware of what you guys are doing once it does come through, but whatever works for you guys. He's no secret. You guys can talk to him.
Yeah, don't keep me a secret. Lisa, I'm going to email you this. For some reason, I'm not able to share it right this second. I don't know if it's because I logged in through a different Zoom. Or Carrick, is it better to send it to you?
Whichever, yeah.
It's better to send it to me. Just kidding.
Okay.
I send it to Lisa. She
I'm
runs
just
me.
kidding.
She runs everything.
There's a big shocker there.
Yeah, right. She's a control freak.
I just sent you a sample
I am.
pricing.
I emphasize the freak part. Just kidding, honey.
You sent it to me or Carrick?
I sent it to both of you.
Oh, I have it. I see it now.
I didn't put a subject on it.
That's fine. So let's see if I can screen share. Is that the goal?
I
here?
wasn't able to, but
I can share it if you want. Let me share it.
All right, go for it.
I believe it's this one. You got, is that, am I on the right one? Is that it?
No, that's your what's it called? Your Excel sheet.
Oh, my Excel sheets. Okay, let's try it again. Which one is it? It's kind of hard to see in this thing. Oh, I think this is it. All right, sure. Okay, that should be it.
It's still trying. There it is. Okay.
Okay. So this is the Boost DPA pricing. See, I kind of used just a generic. I don't even think I gave it that great a credit score. So I just gave it some generic type pricing. This is if you go from left to right, shows that it's the Boost DPA. First lien plus 2%. You can buy the second down to match the first interest rate. I don't think it ever makes sense. It's 50 basis points as an LLPA on the first. Um, maybe if you were in a tight debt ratio position and you had a lot of seller credit, it makes sense, but otherwise I kind of doubt it. Um, I screenshotted the repayable second. There is a forgivable second, which is not priced as well. As you can see, uh, we mark, and I just happen to open up the 7 3/8 hyperlink is kind of a example. We'll mark the highest rate or the rate with the most credit, the lowest available interest rate, and then the closest to par. So that 7.375 rate there has 2.272 in credit. So not only are you getting a 96.5% first, you're getting a 3.5% second, but you're getting an additional $9,000 in closing costs. So that's kind of where I see most of this stuff come in. Somewhere in that, but above 1.5 to maybe slightly less than 2.5 type pricing is what people choose. Now, obviously, you can see rates go down all the way into the sixes with credit, and the rate stack goes lower. You can choose a lower rate, but if you choose a lower rate, I'm hoping you have some seller credit because just by design, these people typically don't have any money, right? So the reason they're looking to go no money down is because they don't have any money. So I would try to build them into a rate that has a higher rate stack. Let me send you some of the other stuff as well, real quick. I'm sure there's a way to do this better. This is all based on a 660 credit score, by the way. All right. All right, Carrick, I just sent you two more screenshots.
Okay. Are you guys seeing my email here?
Sorry, yes, we see your email.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm on the same screen. Okay. We'll go to this one first. You want to open them side by side or? I can. Let's go.
All right. So yeah, so here's the grant program. This is as I mentioned is forgivable after 6 months. As you can see, the rates are quite a bit higher. To get the same rate, that 7.375 on like a boost product, you're going to be paying some points to do so. I think that kind of eliminates the purpose of doing a down payment assistance if you're paying points to do so.
Sorry.
So
Sorry. What did I do?
Eric, does this remind you of being an AV guy in school?
Yeah.
There you go. Just leave it like that, honey. You're fine.
Okay. I can just move this over. There we go. Okay. I won't touch anything.
Let me get back over there. I don't even know if I can see that.
Am I on the
All right.
right one or I missed that other screenshot?
You did. You put the wrong one up. It's the that's
Right.
the you want the grant one,
The grant one.
which is on the right side.
The one on the right. Oh, I must have just got rid of it altogether. Sorry, guys. Here we go. One more time. And then the other. Nope, those are the same. Sorry. So it must be this one then, right?
Zimmerman, there you go.
Nope, that's the same one. The hell? This one.
There we go.
Is that right?
So, yep.
Okay, I'll leave it.
So you kind of compare, rate stack to rate stack. If we went back to that, 7.375, you're seeing, on a repayable second, it gives you point and a quarter, a little bit more than that in credit. Whereas on the grant program, which goes away in 6 months, it's costing you a half a point. So the reason that these typically work is higher credit scores on the grant program. I bet you if I ran this at a 700 score, you would see that you get to a break even point a little bit faster than that 7.625 range. But even at 7.625, makes it difficult for you to make any money. So at a par rate, I would really be trying to use the grant program if you're looking for making money today. The boost product if you're looking to make money today. Keep in mind, the second slide we're showing is also a 5% second, so that goes actually to 101.5. So it does pay some closing costs. If you remember, the 3.5% one was a little bit better as far as total credit to the borrower. But this gets kind of back to when you run into these, let's get really specific and let's see how much they're going to receive in credit and how quickly you think you're going to refinance this property and what position you put them in. Because if you think about it, putting them in a 5% second sounds great, but that's just another 1.5% they're going to have to clear in equity in the next year for you to refinance them, right? So what I would rather see you do is take a higher rate on a 3.5% second, but get more credit, right? Because that doesn't apply towards what your total equity is going to be. So, it's not a one size fits all by any means, but I think we give you enough options that hopefully we can find a right fit for you.
Perfect. Any more questions, guys?
Good info.
No more? Okay, Jason, I'll send you an email with all that's on Loan Officer Wise, so you can get them access and marketing stuff throughout the day. You can also another thing, you can co-market on, right? They can co-market with their realtor partners as well through the marketing portal.
Yeah, for sure. You can do that. And the marketing team is really good if you need things specifically created. There's a lot of stuff in there, but like I said, 900 flyers, English, Spanish, you can do a lot of stuff in there. But for example, if you wanted something very specific to a market that you're in, or to add one of your realtor partners or referral partners, for Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever it is, they'll format it to the right size for you. And they're usually, I get open house ones done usually in 4 or 5 hours. Kind of depends on their workload, but they're not overly utilized. So I do think it's something that you could, you take advantage of even for this weekend if you wanted to.
And the beauty is they're all in compliance. So you don't have to do anything. Everything's on there that needs to be on there. So nobody gets in trouble.
And our name isn't on them. Just as a reference point. We just want it. It's a tool for you to use. And again, we like it to be a give and take. So hopefully if you use all the stuff and we can help you get more business, you send us some of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate you and your time. If anyone
Yeah.
has any more questions, this is your last chance to speak, guys.
Or you
Lisa's
Is
just
there a
call me in
cost for
20
custom
minutes.
marketing?
Lisa's always available for you guys as well. So if you have any specific scenario you want to run by her for a DPA and kind of maybe go through your own specific scenario on any of these options, she can do a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams meeting with you just like this and go over your specific scenario and show you how it works and what options are best. She's going to be your go-to for DPAs. I am not the DPA guy to help you with that. Lisa's going to be your go-to, as is Jason. So
Candace wanted to know if there was any cost for custom marketing.
No.
No. Perfect.
No. Yeah, and if you're going to remember, there's a lot of information getting spit at you. 580 down to a 580 credit score. Don't have to be a first-time home buyer. Not necessarily income limits. You know, it's
they're huge.
really opens up almost anybody you can do an FHA loan for. You can do a DPA for.
Yeah, that's huge.
All right. Well,
Perfect.
thank you guys for having me. If you need anything, please reach out.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jason.
Jason.
Appreciate it.
All right.
You guys,
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Bye.
stop the recording here, but I am going to upload. It takes a few minutes. I'm going to put it on the YouTube channel, send it out to everybody in the group. So if you missed it, it'll be there. Tell your friends, and if you want to, obviously review it later, things you missed or forgot or whatever, it'll be there for you. Okie dokie. And Lisa's laughing at something. I don't know.
I'm laughing at Jimbo.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
all right, gang.
if you need me, holler.
Real quick, is Lisa D still on the phone? Lisa, we just got over James's steps. My Lisa's going to be working that up and sending a prequel letter here.
I already sent him a needs list, actually.
Yeah. Missing a couple little things like his full social and whatever, but
Very important things for a prequel. I got it there, but by the end of the day, if he gets it all, I'll have it over to you.
oh, I just
Very
saw an
good.
email
Thank
from
you.
him.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.